Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. So in this video we are going to take a look at how we're going to take a look at the Exploding Rage Super Battle Road stage. So the Exploding Rage team is led by Beerus. Beerus is currently the only Exploding Rage unit or leader of the category. Alternatives for the team include units like Broly, who leads movie bosses and interplanetary destruction, and the AGL Freezer, who leads sworn enemies, which is also a pretty good one, along with Planet Namek Saga. So there's some pretty good units that exist for the Exploding Rage SBR. Most of them are relatively strong, they're quite powerful. If we look at my team, we've got Beerus, and we have actually the games given Beerus, so we don't have like a friend Beerus or anything. I couldn't find one at the time, so we just took the stock standard Beerus. So not too not too powerful a friend lead or anything, so we're not going to rely on it for a lot of damage or anything like that. But overall, the Exploding Rage team, is pretty strong. It's obviously got some really nice options and different builds. We've got Zamasu and we've got Merged Zamasu. That's kind of like, how do I say, our combo for this rotation. Obviously we have the attack down for super type enemies that comes from the Merged Zamasu, and we have the damage reduction abilities of the AGL Zamasu. If you use an item, AGL Zamasu will tank really well because the damage reduction is additive. So if you use the items and you combine it with his passive, you should get a pretty good defensive result. Then we're going to have him with Merged Zamasu. That's going to be the one rotation. They will do pretty good damage, and you can also transform Zamasu into his merged form for some pretty big damage upgrades as well. And then also we should get some interesting combinations there and some healing back from their link set, which also helps as well. We also have Broly, who we're going to pair up on the other rotation with either the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, or it'll be, that's pretty much the combination there. So Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, he's going to be the unit that we kind of pair up Broly with. They both have decent links. Realistically, they just have prepared for battle and Super Saiyan, I believe. But yeah, that's going to be the link pairing there. And then we've just kind of got the Beeruses floating. The friend Beerus doesn't do a lot of damage at all. Like, he literally does nothing. My Beerus will do some decent damage because he's got his hidden potential system done out and everything like that. Obviously, in terms of this event here, we are fighting mainly superclass enemies, which makes the Blue Vegeta not as effective because he only reduces the attack and defense of extreme class enemies, and he also only has he only has the stunning against extreme class enemies as well. So we do lose some utility from the Blue Vegeta, which isn't so bad. We survive perfectly fine with it. So overall, it's not really that bad a situation. And then finally, the floating units will be the Beeruses to generate rainbow orbs when we fight Realm of the Gods characters, and of course, just because they're not really the best, units when it comes to defense before they take a hit. And yeah, Bardock as well. So Bardock also loses a lot of his effectiveness because he can transform, but he doesn't gain any benefits from it because we are not fighting extreme class enemies. We'll be fighting super class enemies pretty much the entire way through. So Bardock loses effectiveness, and that kind of sucks. And then Yeah, but that's it. We do have the active skill for Beerus, which helps. Gives him an extra 40% attack and defense, which, you know, makes things a little bit easier, I should say. But yeah, barring that, the team's pretty self-explanatory from that point onwards. Broly's going to be very good here. The Brolys overall are very good here. So Broly fills out a lot of the exploding rage category, as you can imagine. So Broly's pretty good here. The strength a la Broly obviously would be ideal. You know, because, well, we're fighting a lot of superclass enemies and hybrid Saiyans and pure Saiyans. The int one that I'm using is probably the second best. The tech Allah is also very good. And yeah, I think obviously the Frieza, the AGL Allah Frieza from the download celebration, he's very good, especially in the last stage, because you're essentially just fighting a Goku. And so having Frieza there means you can do a lot of damage. But we've got Zamasu here. We can turn him into the Emerge Zamasu, and he will lose a lot of his defensive capabilities, but he will gain a lot of offensive capabilities, which helps us finish off enemies, just obviously finish off any stragglers and just kind of control the fight a little bit more. It is somewhat difficult because, like I said, he loses some defense, and so he actually can be quite vulnerable in this stage. So you just want to be careful that either you have used an item, or like in this situation we weren't going to take that many attacks or anything like that. Once you can confirm that, then it's a lot more reliable, and you know, using the transformation isn't so risky. But yeah, so that's the first one done. Nothing too bad. We've got a decent amount of items left. We're now fighting Vegeta, and we're fighting Gotenks. I believe this is from when Beerus fought Vegeta and Gotenks on the ship. I think it's in both actually. I think he fights them in the movie and in the anime. So that is where this scene comes from. Yeah, same kind of strategy here. We're trying to get Broly and the Vegeta on rotation. Ideally, you kind of want to take two different Brolys and just link them up. That's always better than this Vegeta. This Vegeta I just took to kind of just give an option, but Broly's really one of the bigger carries here. I think Vegeta isn't classified as a pure Saiyan here because he's based on the Vegeta and Bulma units, so you actually want to keep the Gotenks alive as much as possible to allow Broly's full passive to activate, and give him the benefits from fighting against a pure Saiyan enemy. Yeah, I think you definitely need that. Otherwise you're not going to get the full benefits of his passive, which, you know, isn't as good if there's not a pure Saiyan or a hybrid Saiyan. He gets a whole bunch of extra damage reduction, crit chance, etc. So it does help, and it will improve his damage. So for those of you who don't know, if you are doing SBR and you're fighting multiple enemies, if you have a passive that procs against hybrid Saiyans, but you are targeting the Namekian enemy, it will still proc and you'll still get the benefits. So that is something to just keep in mind. So far, so good though, no real issues at all. We have almost finished the Gotenks, even though obviously I wanted to keep him alive. The main reason being is we're just trying to obviously reduce the enemy as quickly as possible. Zamasu is doing some nice damage as well, getting some good crits. I think there's 3 dupes in the Zamasu, so he's pretty good. His damage isn't great. He's not like great in his first transformation at all, realistically, but he does get somewhat better as things go along. He transforms, obviously helps him out quite a bit. His second form is probably his best. It's his most balanced form with probably the strongest like array of abilities. He's got, I think, 40 or 30% damage reduction, and he does some really decent damage. He starts hitting for around about 2 mil. He also has big bad bosses, which I haven't link leveled, but is quite a valuable link, and obviously will help him quite a bit as well. So there is that as well that you can factor in. That will also help you quite a bit if you do struggle with this, you can link level the team. And yeah, so Exploding Rage, it's got quite a few nice variable builds. Obviously, like I said, if you can't seem to run a Beerus lead, your next best bet is probably the Broly, just because he leads in planetary destruction and movie bosses, and most of the Brolys are very, very good, and they fall under the category anyway. So yeah, definitely Broly's your number one sub lead or go-to secondary lead, so that you can get the results and yeah, just kind of obviously control, get the fights, get a good team out. So yeah, if you are struggling, go with a Broly. If you're struggling further, go with Frieza, AGL Frieza. It's probably your next best bet. So yeah, that's the second fight done. Unfortunately, we did use our Dokkan attack, which isn't ideal, because obviously we want to try and keep our Dokkan attack, for the final stage, to do a lot of damage. Fortunately, the final stage is against Goku, which is a single target enemy, so Dokkan attacks do help, but they don't help as much as if you're fighting multiple enemies or anything like that, because obviously the Dokkan attack automatically makes your attack an AoE, which helps you quite a bit if you have a high damage single target unit. Just let you do a lot of damage, and essentially turn that high target single damage attack into a big AoE. So yeah, that does help quite a bit. Beyond that, yeah, the team's gonna work pretty well here. Obviously we do need to just be careful. The tech merge Zamasu doesn't really have the greatest defense. Fortunately, Goku is strength, so we do have some strong AGL units. Bardock will be fine after he builds some defense, and the Zamasu obviously should be more than fine being AGL. Transforming him will also help us with our damage later on. He's Pure Sand, so Broly's passive will be active the entire time, which helps as well. And yeah, just a nice strong showing in terms of team build here. I think, yeah, obviously having AGL Frieza would help, because he would be critting the entire time, which obviously is fantastic, and there's a tremendously massive amount of damage to do. But at the same time, we're not going to struggle too much for damage here. Our biggest threat is probably just Tech Zamasu or someone catching a super attack. Even with an item, they will just naturally struggle, because they're not necessarily designed to tank in any way, shape or form. So yeah, that's realistically our biggest threat. Everything else should be fine. So yeah, you can see everything's going okay here. Ideally you'd like having a seal or a stun, something that allows you to just keep Goku in check. Attack lowering would also help. Defense lowering would help slightly, but more attack lowering, sealing, stunning. Since we don't have these things, we do just need to be a little bit careful, and obviously try and control the fight more with items and things like that, which is okay. It's not the end of the world if you don't necessarily have all the tools that you need equipped, but yeah, definitely those things would help. But it's not necessarily mandatory. As you can see, we're doing more than fine. We're chunking Goku down nicely. We've got good item usage, so we're not struggling too badly or anything like that. We've managed to really control our item usage, not really given ourselves any issues or anything. So for the most part, quite happy with how things have gone. I think Tech Zamasu would benefit the most here, just because he'd probably gain a lot from link leveling, and I think that would help him quite a bit. Just in general, link leveling probably helps him out the most. That big bad bosses, that initial defense, that ability to tank a little bit better right off the bat. But yeah, that's really about it. We will be transforming Bardock just for a little bit of extra DPS. Even though Goku's not an extreme type, it still does increase his DPS, which helps. And yeah, generally speaking, everything's okay here. We're gonna definitely finish this and get the victory. Yeah, the team definitely could be better, but I think this is a serviceable team. Exploding Rage doesn't really have a lot of free-to-play options, so you are a little bit limited in fleshing out your team if you don't have Broly or you don't have Beerus. That's just unfortunately part of it. So if you don't have those guys, you are just going to struggle a little bit, just because it's kind of it's difficult really to build a team without those guys, because there's not a lot of units that fit under the other lead skills. You can get away with AGL Frieza, mainly off just how strong double AGL Frieza is, as a rotation, as a unit, just as a team build. So yeah, you can definitely run AGL Frieza, but yeah, he 100% is probably the third best option. But yeah, as you can see here, we should be pretty good. We are going to transform the merged Zamasu, and we will use the item just for the extra defense, just to secure anything. I don't think we die if Zamasu did get hit, but yeah, and Zamasu will do some good damage, so he should wrap everything up here. So overall, not that difficult, and SBR, a nice one, I think, because the Exploding Rage category is somewhat limited. As we've mentioned a couple times, if you don't have Beerus, you don't have Broly, you don't have a lot of options. So I think because of that reason, it's not too overtuned, which I think is good. And yeah, it seems like to be a nice little fun SBR. So I enjoyed it. I think there's room to go. There's definitely not enough free-to-play options here, so if you are struggling, you will struggle to flesh it out. That's going to be it from me, guys. Let me know if you liked the video, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care, and bye!